will point out one thing in the higher education research considerations that when you're dealing, one thing to really think about is when you're dealing with the issue of consent, if someone is, because someone has to be able to withdraw their consent, there's a lot of concern that, wait, if this person can just withdraw their consent, that could ruin the entire research that we are doing. Well, GDPR did make a few concessions to that point. One way that you could handle that is if you can truly anonymize the data, you don't have to delete it. And what I mean by anonymize, it means completely anonymize. It doesn't mean pseudonymize it, meaning you really don't know the core of who is in that data. Now that may not be appropriate for particular research. So you are allowed to, if someone withdrew their consent, you are allowed to maintain that data as long as there is another legal basis to retain it. And there are two that might be primary suspects to rely on. First is that if there's a need to protect the scientific research, if deletion would render it impossible or seriously impair the research objectives. GDPR has allowed for you to at least retain the data for if that is a potential that might happen based on someone withdrawing consent. The other part is if you need to protect public health by ensuring the accuracy and the quality of the data and that it's related to some type of medical care or investigational drugs or devices. In those two situations, if consent is withdrawn, you wouldn't necessarily have to eliminate the data or even anonymize it. You could still continue to use it. And that's really important because when you think about some of the common research activities that we engage in that might be subject to GDPR, you can see how that might be really important to understand or be able to protect yourself. So as you can tell, things for you to think about when you're informing your principal investigators or your researchers, things to look at or data practices or research that they would normally be engaged in and maybe wouldn't have thought twice about. Some of those would include if they're engaging in a multi-site trial in a European Economic Area member state. Again, we talked previously about whether there's a mobile application that they're highlighting to EEA residents so that they can track medication compliance, and then that transfers data back to a study team. We actually have some of those on our campus, and so those are interesting examples to try to ferret everything out. You might have collaboration agreements with other research institutions in the EEA countries, and that way you're sharing data. And then also if you're monitoring behavior of the data subjects, that comes in a variety of different forms. So important is just make sure that you can try to create awareness among your researchers that if these are issues or activities they're engaging in, that you can provide resources for them to help make sure that they are compliant with GDPR.